This is on the 25th of August, 1995. It's about 40 minutes past midnight. What happened, very, very dramatic case. An object slashed down across Ontario province in Canada. We conclude that it must have crossed Lake Erie because within a matter of seconds it was being reported from western Pennsylvania. People from Adamsville, Edinburgh, Pittsburgh, Greensburg, Bedford, New Bedford, many witnesses to this, even though it was 40 minutes past midnight on a Monday morning. And people as far west as West Cleveland, people as far east as New York City saw this object. I'm often asked, well, how do you distinguish a bona fide UFO report from a hoax or a case of mistaken identity? In a second, when we play 2 audio clips from witnesses who called the hotline just 5 minutes or so after this event, I think you'll be able to tell how we are able to distinguish those two. With that, I wonder if we could go to the first audio tape, please, and play 2 audio clips back to back.
In the car, and we were getting ready to pull out of the driveway, and all of a sudden I heard my mom say, "Look at that!" And I looked up in the sky, and the entire sky was like a light blue, like daytime.
Yeah.
And the entire sky turned really light-colored blue, and all of a sudden this big white, a big ball of white light, and behind it was like this orange flame stuff. And it just shot across the sky like really fast, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. It even had a sound to it. It kind of like bing, like that, and then it just died out.
Yeah. Okay.
But it lit up the entire sky.
What time did this occur?
This just happened like 5 minutes ago. It was like 12:40 our time. Mom says about 10 seconds. It was going from north to south.
Second cut.
Approximately 5 minutes ago, I saw what looked like a nuclear explosion in the sky. I mean, it lit up the whole neighborhood. More than one flash. The size of it was so great that it was, it was blinding. And I thought for sure that it was a nuclear bomb explosion.
Yes.
It lasted maybe 2 seconds. Flashes. Like a small one, then it got brighter and brighter. Grew into what to me looked like a nuclear warhead that exploded in the sky.
Cut, please. A nuclear warhead. That gentleman whose voice you just heard was 90 miles to the west of the flight track of this, the flight path or the ground track of this object. He thought that the nuclear power plant in Cleveland had blown up, had melted down. In a moment, I'm going to play some very interesting videotape, what is known as the Canadian or Canada fireball. Some of you are old enough and computer savvy enough to remember Windows 95. It was released, I remember the date, it was Thursday, the 24th of August, 1995. Well, and they held a big celebration in Redmond, Washington. They had dancing camels, they pitched tents and yurts and so on. But as they were folding their tents that night, an object streaked down across Canada. It streaked across Lake Erie. It streaked down across the western end of Pennsylvania, and it stopped near Breezewood, Pennsylvania. Well, it was a very dramatic night. Moreover, there are reports that as the object streaked across Toronto, fires in wheat fields broke out spontaneously underneath it. That's unconfirmed. But in a moment, you will see some videotape. This is what the object looked like when it stopped just south of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. A very dramatic object, and it was reported from as far east as New York City. This is a written report that we received from a gentleman who had described himself as a physicist. He said he had a PhD in physics, and he described what he saw from approximately 250 or 300 miles east of this object. He saw a perfectly round object strobing like a strobe light, streaking from north to south at a very shallow angle relative to his western horizon. And the reason I know that this gentleman, or strongly suspect that this gentleman is in fact a PhD and a physicist, is it took us 14 months to get his written report. Typical of a PhD. In any event, in a moment, I would like to have the ladies and gentlemen behind the screen here cue a tape entitled Canada Fireball. And while they're dimming the lights, let me coach you a little. What you're going to first see up in the night sky, you will interpret to be a full moon. It is not a full moon. It is the object of interest. Number 2, please note that it is above the clouds. Number 3, please note the strobing. And number 4, watch at the 5:30 position, that is down below the round ball of light, very, very closely, and you will see an object for just a half a second or so streak apparently from ground level up and apparently join with this object. With that, could we please play the tape?
Whatever it was, got residents from Canada to Michigan, as well as some scientists, fired up. John Kelclamp reports it might have been a meteor shower.
Nothing but a charred skeleton remains of the burned-out mobile home, but it's managed to draw crowds of curious onlookers, the media, and scientists, because of early reports that the blaze was caused by a meteorite. Maddie Jessup is a witness who lives nearby.
I pulled up just after a friend of mine, and she had seen this fireball. She actually saw the fireball, and they followed it right into here. The airport is just about 3/4 of a mile up, and we both thought it was a small aircraft that was coming down. We talked to the Windsor police, and they said somebody had also reported a fireball, so now we're thinking meteorite, you know? Possible, very possible.
Well, we're not precluding that it wasn't something from the sky, and we're not precluding that it wasn't arson, so at this point, we don't know.
Okay, did the fire department from Windsor initially say that it was caused by the meteorite and they had recovered something?
No, I have no reports from the fire department at all in my possession.
A professor and a student from the University of Windsor Earth Sciences Department poked through the debris this morning looking for evidence of a meteorite. They used a special device to detect radiation, but they came up empty-handed. Okay, what'd you find in there?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's no evidence of any meteorite impact. It doesn't rule out that there wasn't one, but there is no evidence of it. If there was one, it was probably a very small, maybe nut size or even smaller, that would still provide the kind of a trace that you see in the sky, but when it hits the ground, it doesn't leave much of a trace on the ground.
A local astronomer tells us 100 tons of meteors pass through the atmosphere every day.
If this was the plane
Thank
dropping the flares out, it's going
in summary,
in the wrong direction.
the fireball, or whatever it was, that streaked over Toronto, Ontario, over Lake Erie, down across Pennsylvania, and stopped. Sometime, if I come back to the International UFO Congress, I would like to do a 3-hour analysis, a workshop on just this case. It is fascinating.